It was drizzling that day. Not heavy, fine and dense, like someone sifting ash through a sieve in the sky. I stood downstairs at Lin Wei's building, holding a bag of fruit in my hand. The green grapes she loved that I'd run to 3 different fruit stores before finding ones fresh and large enough. The iron awning over the building entrance had a hole in it, and a drop of water landed right on the back of my neck. Cold and sharp, I sent her a message. I'm here. 5 minutes later. She replied, "Come up." The elevator had a faint smell of disinfectant. I pressed the button for the 7th floor, watching the numbers tick up one by one. I'd been to this building many times that I remembered the view from the window at the end of each floor's hallway. The door on the right on the 7th floor had a faded fortune sticker on the frame, one we put up together last Chinese New Year. It was crooked. I'd said we should redo it. She said it didn't matter. Fortune comes even when it's crooked. I rang the doorbell. The door opened. Lin Wei stood there in a cream-colored knitted cardigan, her hair loose, wearing light makeup. She looked calm, the kind of calm that comes from having already rehearsed what you're going to say. She stepped aside to let me in, her gaze sweeping over the bag of green grapes in my hand, without the slightest flicker of emotion. On the coffee table in the living room sat 2 glasses of water, along with a bank card and a piece of paper. She slid the paper across to me. Let's break up. I looked at the paper. A 4. Printed with a few lines of text in a format so formal it could have been a company document. The gist. Both parties voluntarily terminate the romantic relationship. Party A, Lin Wei, will pay Party B, Chun Mo, 20,000 yuan as a breakup settlement. Funds have been deposited into the designated bank card. Upon receipt, neither party shall have further contact with the other. I looked up at her. Lin Wei stood across the coffee table, arms crossed over her chest. Her expression, that particular brand of composure that says, "I know this hurts, but it's better to rip the bandage off fast." Chun-mo, we've been together for 2 years. I don't know how much 2 years of feelings are worth, but 20,000 is everything I can give you right now. Take the money. Find yourself a cheaper place to rent for a few months, and get your life together. A breakup fee. I said, call it whatever you want. She picked up her glass and took a sip. And don't bother texting me anymore. I've blocked you. From now on, we go our separate ways. I looked at her face, a face I'd seen for 2 years. So familiar I could tell you that when she smiled, the right corner of her mouth went up a millimeter higher than the left. But this face wasn't the same anymore. It wasn't the makeup. It was that the light in her eyes was gone. She looked at me the way you look at someone who just needs to be dealt with. Why? I asked. Why what? Why are we breaking up? Lin Wei set her cup down, leaned back on the sofa, and spoke in a tone as flat as if she were explaining why she was donating an old sweater. Chun-mo, be honest with yourself. Are we really right for each other? No house, no car, no savings. 3 years at that ad agency, and you're still a junior planner. After rent, what's left of your paycheck? You know it. Every time my mom asks about you, I don't even know what to say. So your mom introduced you to someone with a house and a car. Lin Wei's expression froze for a split second. Then she nodded, unashamed. Yeah, he's the son of a colleague of my dad's. Works at a bank. His family owns 2 apartments. Fully paid off. My mom says he's interested in me. You've met him. Met him. Last week. He's a decent guy. I set the bag of grapes down on the corner of the coffee table. The plastic made a soft scraping sound against the glass. Through the window, the sound of rain drifted in. Pattering. Growing denser, Lin Wei. I said, you've made up your mind. Made it up. She pushed the bank card closer to me. Take the money. From now on, we each live our own lives. Don't come looking for me again. I looked at the card on the table. Union pay. Probably her salary card. 20,000. The price she'd put on 2 years. And then I laughed. I'm not sure what that laugh looked like. Probably some kind of quiet, surprise sound that came from somewhere deep in my throat. Lin Wei frowned when she saw it, probably not expecting me to be capable of laughter in a moment like this. Fine. I said. I picked up the bank card and put it in my pocket. Then I picked up the A4 paper, folded it in half twice, and put it in my pocket too. I'll take the money. I'll take the paper too. Lin Wei looked at me warily. Chun-mo, what are you planning? Nothing. I stood up. You're right. No house, no car, no savings. After rent, there's not much left. But there's something I want to tell you. She stared at me, lips pressed tight. That banker your mom set you up with. His family's 2 apartments. His dad drained every last penny of savings for the down payment. The monthly mortgage is all on him. If you marry him, you'll be paying off a 30-year loan together. You're not walking into some easy life. Lin Wei's face flickered, just slightly, but her mouth stayed stubborn. Don't be bitter. How would you know anything about him? Because his dad came to see me last week. Lin Wei froze. He knows a guy in the building materials business. That guy used to be a client of mine. I said, when your mom played matchmaker. The guy's dad checked me out first. Wanted to see what kind of person his daughter's ex was. Whether he was worth the trouble. Stop making things up. I'm not making anything up. I walked to the door and turned back to look at her. That 20,000 on that card, it's everything you've saved over the last 3 years. Right. You gave it to me. What do you have left for yourself? That banker's monthly mortgage is 23,000. Are you sure you want the life you'll be signing up for? Lin Wei's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I pulled the door open. The sound of rain flooded in, pounding against the hallway windows. The grapes are sweet. Keep them. I said, goodbye. The door closed behind me. As it clicked shut, I heard her call out something, but the door was too thick that I couldn't make it out. The elevator went down. I leaned against the wall, took out the bank card, and looked at it. Union Pay. Last 4 digits were her birthday. 20,000. For a regular girl. That wasn't pocket change. She'd saved for 3 years, then thrown it in my face and told me to get lost. I put the card back in my pocket. The rain was coming down harder now. I stood under the broken awning at the building entrance, pulled out my phone, and made a call. Mr. Chun. It's Chun Mo. That project proposal I mentioned. If you think it's viable, I'm ready to start anytime. Yes. Today works. I hung up and walked out into the rain. It hit my head, my shoulders, but I didn't run. The puddles on the sidewalk reflected the dim orange streetlights. I stepped through them and watched the light shatter and reform. I in my pocket. The bank card pressed against my thigh. I could feel its edges through the fabric. 20,000. The price of a breakup. I walked about 10 minutes, soaked through, and stepped into a 24-hour ATM. I inserted the card and checked the balance. The screen showed 20.000.00. I withdrew 2,000 in cash, pocketed it, and pulled the card out. Tomorrow, I'd turn that 20,000 into something else and give it back to her. Not money. Something different. By the time I got home, it was nearly 11. The rental was small, but I kept it tidy. I hung my wet jacket over the back of a chair and pulled a folder from the drawer. The cover read, Hanyuan Building Materials Group, Full Brand Strategy Proposal. Inside was a complete plan I'd spent 3 months working on. The client was the city's largest building materials chain. The agency had worked with them once before. They weren't satisfied, so I'd reached out to their brand director on my own. Spent 6 months building a relationship and started the proposal from scratch. The pitch was scheduled for next Wednesday. If I landed it, the contract was 7 figures. I flipped open the first page, skimmed it, then closed the folder and put it back in the drawer. The bank card sat on the table. Next to it, the folded A4 paper. I picked it up, unfolded it, and read the cold, sterile lines again. A tidy goodbye. I folded it back up and tucked it into the folder. My phone buzzed. A message from someone I hadn't heard from in a long time. Chinemo, heard you're working on that building materials deal. Got time to chat? I have a contact who might be useful. I replied, sure. Outside, the rain kept falling. I turned off the light and lay down on the bed. On the ceiling, watery reflections from the streetlights swayed gently. 2 years. 20,000. Starting tomorrow, everything would be different. The next morning at 6, my phone vibrated and woke me up. An unknown number. Local area code. Rang 3 times and hung up. I didn't call back. I rolled over and tried to sleep, but it wouldn't come. Fragments ran through my head on a loop. Lin Wei at the stove frying eggs. The crooked fortune sticker on her front door. Her face when she slid that bank card across the table. Each image froze. Rewound. Played again. At7. I got up, took a shower, boiled some frozen dumplings, and ate by the window. The rain had stopped. Outside, the sky was that pale gray brightness that comes after a storm. The streets wet. A street sweeper shuffling through fallen leaves. I checked my phone. The unknown number had sent a text. Mr. Chin Mo, this is Lin Wei's father. Lin Jiangwo. Could we meet today? There's something I'd like to discuss. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then replied, what time? We're 10 a.m. The old tea house on South Street. You know the place. I knew it. Back when I was dating Lin Wei, her father would occasionally have tea there. I'd run into him a few times when I walked her home. An older man sitting by the window, a pot of oolong in front of him, waving when he saw us pass. 10 o'clock sharp. I pushed open the tea house door. That familiar smell of old wood and tea leaves hit me. Lin Jiangwo sat at the usual spot by the window, a pot of oolong in front of him, 2 cups, a dish of peanuts. He stood when he saw me, moving a little stiffly, as though he wasn't feeling well. Chinemo, come. Sit. Sit. I sat down. He poured me tea, slid it over, and settled back, rubbing his hands together. He wore a clean gray jacket, his hair mostly white now, his face more lined than it had been 6 months ago, with dark circles under his eyes. Uncle Lin, what did you want to see me about? He took a sip of tea, set it down, and seemed unsure how to begin. He picked up a few peanuts, chewed slowly, swallowed. Chinemo, he finally said. Lin Wei called me last night. She told me you two broke up. She gave you 20,000. I didn't respond. That girl is out of line. Lin Jiangwo sighed, rubbing his brow. I gave her a piece of my mind. $20,000. What is that? You don't pay someone off like that after 2 years. Her mother spoiled her. She's always been obsessed with finding someone well off. I told her so many times that character matters more. Uncle Lin, I interrupted. You didn't ask me here just to talk about her 20,000. His hand stopped midair. He looked out the window and was quiet for a long time. Through the glass, fallen plane tree leaves covered the ground. A breeze slipped through the door, making the dish of peanuts rattle. Chinemo. His voice dropped. I'll be honest with you. I came today to ask you for a favor. He looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Not the calm of an elder, but something lower, heavier, like a man on the edge of a cliff, grabbing for the last vine. I owe money. Loan sharks. It's due Monday. Principal and interest. 180,000. I've borrowed from everyone I can. Sold everything I can sell. I'm still short by 50,000. The bank won't approve me. I have past due loans on my record. I've asked every relative, every friend. He stopped, as if the next words were the hardest. Chinemo, he said, his voice shaking, looking down. Can you lend me 50,000? I'll pay you back within 3 months. I swear. I'll put the house back home up as collateral. Write you an IOU. Pay you double the bank interest rate. I held my tea, the amber liquid untouched. Your daughter gave me 20,000 last night and told me to get lost. This morning, her father is sitting in a tea house asking me for 50,000. I set the cup down. Uncle Lin, who do you owe? He rubbed his face, as if trying to scrub away some emotion. A business deal went bad. Last year, I partnered on a construction materials project. The investor pulled out, and I couldn't recover what I'd fronted. I took outside money to cover it. The interest kept compounding. Now I can't keep up. Does Lin Wei know? No. He shook his head firmly. Don't tell her. Her mother doesn't know either. At my age, I don't want to drag my family into this. I just wanted to quietly fill this hole. He looked at me, and the pleading in his eyes grew heavier. Slowly, he slid off the chair onto his knees. They hit the floor with a dull thud. Chinemo, I really have no one else to turn to. I looked at him kneeling there, his white hair, his trembling hands gripping the table edge. 2 people at the next table glanced over, then looked away. Uncle Lin, I said, get up. He didn't move. I said, get up. I stood, walked around to him, took his arm, and helped him back into the chair. He felt light, thinner than 6 months ago, his bony arm pressing against my palm. I'm not saying I won't help you, I said, but 50,000 isn't a small amount. I'm just a junior planner at an ad agency. My paycheck disappears by the end of the month. Are you sure you're asking the right person? Lin Jiangwo slumped back in his chair, as though the last of his strength had drained out. I know it's too much to ask, but Chinemo, I really have no one else. I looked at his cup of cold oolong, bits of tea leaf floating on the surface. Then I pulled out my phone, found a file, and turned the screen toward him. Uncle Lin, take a look at this. He looked up. On my screen was a draft cooperation agreement with Hanyuan Building Materials Group, with the brand director's signature and a proposed contract amount. Pitch is next Wednesday. I said, if I land it. The contract total is 180,000. My cut is 35%. I put the phone away. So if it goes through, 50,000 won't be a problem. But that's after next Wednesday. You need the money now, right? A glimmer of hope lit up Lin Jiangwo's eyes, but it was mixed with hesitation and unease. You mean? I said, looking at him. I can try to figure something out. But there's one condition. What condition? Lin Wei. She comes to see me herself. She gave me 20,000 last night, and I took it. But the way she broke up with me, I'm not letting that slide. I want to tell her face to face. Tell her to come here. I'll wait. Lin Jiangwo's face twisted with complicated emotions. His lips moved, as though he wanted to defend his daughter, but nothing came out. He lowered his head and was silent for a long time. Finally, he nodded. Okay, I'll have her come. He stood, steadying himself against the table, straightened his collar, and walked toward the door. At the entrance, he looked back at me. His lips moved. Maybe he said something. But the wind outside carried the sound away. I sat alone by the window. The tea was cold. Half a dish of peanuts remained. I picked one up, shelled it, and chewed slowly. Outside, an old plane tree stood with half its leaves yellowed. The wind sent them spiraling down. I leaned back in my chair, waiting that she'd come. She had to. Because when Lin Jingwo stood up just now, I'd noticed faint red marks on his wrist, hidden under his sleeve. I'd seen marks like that before. From zip ties. The debt collectors had already found him. And what I held in my hands wasn't just that 20,000. It was his daughter. I sat in the tea house for nearly an hour. The oolong was steeped 3 times, each cup weaker than the last, until it tasted like plain water. The peanuts were gone, and I pushed the dish aside to check my work emails. The brand director at Hanyuan had sent a new requirements list overnight. I scrolled through it, jotting down revisions in my notes. AT 1110. The tea house doors swung open. Lin Wei stood in the doorway. No makeup today. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Black hoodie, jeans. If she looked like she'd been summoned from home at a moment's notice. When she spotted me by the window, her face flickered through a series of emotions. Anger, embarrassment, and finally a forced, barely suppressed irritation. She walked over, but didn't sit. Standing at the edge of the table, staring down at me. Chinemo, what's your game? Making my father kneel for you. Sit down. I gestured to the chair across from me. She didn't move. A waitress passed by with a kettle. Glancing at her, finally, Lin Wei bit her lip and sat down, tucking her bag on her lap. Her posture guarded and defensive. What do you want from my dad? What makes you think you can make him kneel? I didn't make him kneel. He did it himself. Lin Wei's expression wavered. Your father owes 180,000 in loan shark debt. It's due Monday. He came to borrow 50,000 from me. Her face changed. The confrontational sharpness drained away, replaced by something heavier. She opened her mouth. Her voice smaller now. What loan shark debt? Dad never told me anything that he didn't want you to know. Your mother doesn't know either. He's been carrying this alone for 6 months. Lin Wei dropped her gaze, her fingers twisting the hem of her hoodie. She was processing, absorbing. I could see her biting her lower lip, her breathing off balance. Then you lent it to him. No, she looked up sharply. Lin Wei. I held her gaze. You gave me 20,000 last night and told me to get lost. Said we should go our separate ways. No more contact. When you said that, did you know your father was barely holding it together? Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. You didn't know. You never asked. You just wanted that banker your mom set you up with to show up faster, so I could disappear from your life. Don't say it like that. Chinemo, then how should I say it? My voice didn't rise, but every word landed. 20,000.3 years of scrimping and saving. You called it the price of 2 years' feelings. Then let me ask you that your dad's 180,000 is that the price of his whole life. Is your banker going to pay that for you? Lin Wei's eyes went red. She glared at me, fighting to hold back tears. Then what do you want me to do? Her voice cracked. What am I supposed to do right now? I leaned back in my chair, watching her for a long moment. Your dad needs 50,000 by Monday. I don't have that kind of cash on hand now, but I have a pitch next week. If I win it, the money will come through. But your dad can't wait until next week. So what do we do? His debt. I can try to cover part of it up front. I know someone who does short-term bridge loans. The interest is higher, but lower than what your dad's paying now. I can help him roll over this payment, then clear it all when my project funds come through. Lin Wei looked at me differently. The shift was subtle. From rigid defensiveness to something uncertain. She probably hadn't expected me to help her after last night. Why? She asked. The word unfinished. Because I don't want you thinking that everything in this world can be solved with money. That 20,000 you gave me last night, I did take some of it. But not for what you think. I pulled the bank card from my pocket and slid it across the table. Take this back. The money's still there. I only took out some cash. That was mine anyway. 2 years of meals and movies and takeout, and all the little things I bought for you. About 2,000. I figure. The rest is yours. You need it. Lin Wei stared at the card. Didn't move. Your dad's situation. I'll help him. I stood up. But Lin Wei, remember this, that you came to me today not because I begged you to. You came because your dad had no one else to turn to. That banker you mentioned. His father came to check me out last week. He told me something. He said, our family doesn't take on dead weight. Remember that. I turned and walked to the door. Behind me, I heard a soft, choked sob. Like a sound cut off and swallowed. I didn't look back. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, filtering through the plane tree leaves and casting broken gold across the ground. I stood in the doorway, took a deep breath, and pulled out my phone. Hey, old ding. It's Chinemo. That short-term bridge loan we talked about, can you still do it? 50,000. About 10 days turnover. Great. I'll come by your office this afternoon. I hung up and headed toward the subway. A few steps in, my phone buzzed again. The brand director from Yuan. Chinemo. I reviewed the proposal again last night. There are a few things I'd like to go over in person. Free this afternoon. 3 o'clock. My office. Done. I pocketed the phone. Sunlight fell warm on my shoulders. Whatever Lin Wei was doing behind that door. Crying. Wrestling with herself. Feeling wronged. That was her business now. What I needed to do was get my own work done. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, I was on the 37th floor of Yuan's headquarters. Brand director Zhou Yuan's office had floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the entire financial district. He made me a pour-over coffee. Practiced. Like he did it often. He was 10 years older than me, wore black-rimmed glasses, and spoke deliberately. Every question cut straight to the point. Chinemo, the overall strategy in your last proposal was solid, but the execution budget is a bit loose. Head office is tightening approvals that you need to justify every line item. Understood. I opened my laptop. I originally left a 15% contingency buffer. If you need it tighter, I can cut it to 8%, but that would mean dropping 2 creative execution elements. Which ones? I flipped a couple of pages, pointed at one section. This pop-up activation. It can go. Effective but expensive. Replace it with an online interactive campaign. Half the cost. Wider reach. Zhou Yuan considered it over his coffee cup, then nodded. Fine. Make those changes. Pitch Monday. Decision Wednesday. No problem. I closed my laptop and stood. Zhou Yuan stopped me. Chinemo, do you know a man named Lin Zhangwo? I paused. Yes. Why? Zhou leaned back, turning his cup in his hands. He owes money to a friend of mine. That friend was my college roommate. We had dinner a couple nights ago, and he mentioned Lin Zhangwo is scrambling to borrow money from everywhere, but no one's lending because the hole's too deep. Your friend. Is he a loan shark? No. He's in construction materials. Lin Zhangwo partnered with him on a project. Lin fronted the money. The project fell through, and my friend's money got tied up in it. Lin took out high-interest loans to cover my friend's losses, but he's too embarrassed to say that outright. Zhou looked at me. I heard you're his daughter's ex-boyfriend. That's right. So you're trying to help him. I'm figuring it out. Zhou held my gaze for a few seconds, then set his coffee down, pulled out a business card from his drawer, and slid it to me. This guy does short-term financing. His rates are 30% lower than my friend's. Take my card and mention my name. I took the card. Plain stock. Just a name and a phone number. Thanks. Mr. Zhou. Don't mention it. Zhou smiled. Your proposal is worth the price. Outside Yuan's building, the sun had shifted west. The office towers along Financial Street reflected warm orange light. I stood at the curb, looked at the business card, then tucked it into my wallet. Something else was in my pocket. That folded A4 paper. The breakup agreement. Lin Wei had drafted it. Cold and formal as a contract. I pulled it out, unfolded it, read it again, folded it back, and put it away. It wasn't time to throw it out yet. When everything settled, I'd decide what to do with it. My phone buzzed. Lin Zhangwo's number. Chinemo. Lin Wei came home and cried all evening. She told me what happened. She said you're willing to help. Chinemo. I don't know how to thank you, Uncle Lin. I said, don't thank me yet. Get your affairs in order first. I'll secure the funding this week and let you know. There was a pause on the line. Then Lin Zhangwo's voice came through, thick with suppressed emotion. Okay. I hung up. Streetlights were starting to glow, one by one, like someone walking along the road lighting torches. I walked down the sidewalk, the wind coming from the side. Cool, carrying the scent of cooking smoke from nearby homes. Tomorrow, there was more to do. The next morning, I found the financing company from Zhou Yuan's card. It was in an old office building on the north side of town. The elevator was still one of those old iron gate models, grinding and squealing as it rose to the 5th floor. At the end of the hall, a frosted glass door had a simple nameplate, Chung Yuan Consulting. I pushed it open. Inside was modest. A desk, a computer, a bookshelf, walls covered in project timelines and cash flow diagrams. The man behind the desk was in his early 40s, thin-faced, wearing a plaid shirt, typing furiously. He looked up, his gaze landing on the card in my hand. Zhou Yuan sent you, right? Are you Mr. Chung? Don't call me that. Just old Chung. He stood and shook my hand. Dry. Firm. Zhou called me last night. He said you need a 50,000 short-term bridge. Terms and rates. We've already discussed. Take a look at this. He slid a simple agreement across the desk. Clear terms, better rates than I'd expected, flexible repayment. I read it line by line. No traps, no hidden clauses. Works for me. When can the funds hit? This afternoon. Old Chung leaned back, sizing me up. Mo, you're in advertising. Yeah. Then you shouldn't be short on client contacts. Why do you need bridge financing? Helping someone out, I said. Old Chung didn't press. He nodded, took a copy of my ID, and said, 4 o'clock. Funds in your account. Sign the agreement. I signed. The pen scratched against the paper, and I thought about Lin Wei signing her breakup agreement the night before. Probably felt the same. Pledging something for an uncertain tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. The bank notification came through. 50,000. Neatly deposited. I called Lin Jiangwo. Uncle Lin, the money's here. Send me the loan shark's account info. I'll transfer it. Silence on the line. Then, Mo, I don't know how to thank you. I'll pay you back. Every cent first. Take care of what's in front of you. Once my project comes through, you'll be clear. But if it doesn't, we'll figure it out. Okay. Okay. I hung up and transferred the 50,000 to the number Lin Jiangwo gave me. The screen flashed transfer successful, and I leaned back in my chair, exhaling at the ceiling. One wall patched. Now to see if the other walls held. For the next several days, I poured everything into the Hanyuan proposal. During work hours, I made revisions on the company computer. At night, back in my rental, I reworked budgets and creative slides. On Wednesday, I took a half day off to get to Hanyuan's conference room early for setup. The PowerPoint had gone through at least 20 revisions. Every animation sequence, font size, and image placement tuned to the last detail. During the pitch, Zhou Mingyuan sat at the head of the long table, flanked by the marketing director and 2 external consultants. I stood the entire time I presented. The marketing director interrupted me 3 times about the budget, and I pulled out the prepared breakdowns and explained each line item in detail. The whole thing felt like a 2-hour exam. At the end, Joe stood, walked to the projection screen to review the demo video for the online interactive component, then turned and exchanged a few quiet words with the marketing director. The marketing director nodded. Mo, Zhou said, turning back. We're taking the proposal. Legal will work on the contract details. Expected signing next Wednesday. How did I feel? Not ecstatic, just a deep, bone-tired finally. Like I'd been running for miles with blistered feet, and the finish line was finally in sight. Thank you, Mr. Zhou. Zhou walked over and clapped me on the shoulder. You earned it. Get some real rest. I packed up and walked out of the Hanyuan building. The sky was darkening, city lights flickering on, Financial Street turning into a glowing river. I stood by the curb for a moment, then texted Lin Jiangwo, Uncle Lin. The pitch went through. Signing next week. Just hold on a few more days, he replied instantly with a string of okays, followed by, your uncle kneels to thank you. I didn't respond. I put the phone in my pocket and headed for the subway. Halfway there, it buzzed again. A long message from Lin Wei. I stopped at the subway entrance to read it. Mo, my dad told me everything. You fronted the money. You're shouldering the interest. I don't know what to say. I said horrible things that night. Did horrible things. You laughed when you took the 20,000. I thought you were furious. Now I realize you just couldn't be bothered to fight with me. I always thought you were poor, aimless, that you couldn't give me anything. But you gave something that banker never could. My dad told me yesterday that he's only knelt twice in his life, that once at my grandfather's funeral, and once to beg you. If I don't make this right, I'll never forgive myself. I'm sorry. And the 20,000. I sent it back to you on Alipay. This time it's not a breakup fee. It's me paying you back. The train arrived. I stepped on, found a seat, and read the message again. The car was half empty, cool air blowing from the vents. The train gliding through tunnels with advertising panels flashing past. I locked the screen and put the phone away. Didn't say I forgave her. Didn't say I didn't. Some things didn't need an immediate answer. Actions speak louder than words. The train pulled into my stop. I stood, walked through the gates, and emerged above ground. The night air hit me, carrying the smell of street-side barbecue grills. I walked home, stopped at a convenience store for water, and checked my balance. Lin Wei's 20,000 was indeed back in my account. I unscrewed the bottle, took a sip, and kept walking. Tomorrow, I needed to talk to Old Chung about extending the repayment terms. Even though the Hanyuan deal was confirmed, there were still a few days between signing and funding. And there was the rest of Lin Jiangwo's high-interest debt to clean up. Plus my regular job. Half a day off had piled up a stack of unread emails. Long road ahead. But at least I was heading in the right direction. The Han Yuan signing went smoother than expected. Wednesday at 10. When legal sent the final contract to my email, I was at my desk at the agency, working on another client's schedule. I stared at the attachment for about 5 seconds, then opened it and scrolled to the last page. Signature line blank. Hong Yuan's digital stamp already in place. The contract amount matched what I'd quoted. I texted Zhou Ming Yuan. Contract received. Signing now. He replied with an OK hand sign, followed by, good work. 3 more projects waiting in the pipeline. I printed, signed, scanned, and sent it back. Whole process took under 10 minutes. Then I leaned back in my chair, looked up at the row of fluorescent lights on the ceiling, one of them flickering like it was about to give out. That afternoon, Hong Yuan's first advance hit my account. I wired the 50,000 bridge loan back to old Chung. Principal and interest. He replied, received. Pleasure doing business. With a fist bump emoji. Then I called Lin Jiangwo to let him know the high-interest loan was cleared. The remaining principal and interest could wait until the Han Yuan final payment came through. On the phone, his voice was hoarse with relief. He said he'd made a pot of stewed ribs and invited me over for dinner. I said maybe another night, that I was busy tonight. He didn't push. At 7. I packed up to leave. Zhang Wen popped her head over from her desk. Chen Mo, you've been swamped lately. Landed a big one. Yeah? A building materials account. Just signed. Drinks on you. Then. I smiled. Next week, out on the street. Night had fully settled. The moon hung bright between 2 office towers. Like a porcelain plate someone had polished clean. I was waiting for the light to change when my phone rang. Lin Wei's name. I answered. A few seconds of silence. Then her voice came through. Calmer than it had been at the tea house. Like she'd spent time preparing for this call. Chen Mo, the contract went through. Right. My dad told me. Congratulations. Thanks. Another pause. The light turned green. People crossed the street. I stayed. Chen Mo, she said. Did you see my message? I saw it. You never replied. I stood at the curb, looking across the street. A couple walked past holding hands. The girl's bubble tea steaming in the cold. Lin Wei. I said, what did you want me to say? She didn't answer. I could hear her breathing. A soft intake of air. Like she swallowed one thing and said another. I want to see you. Just once. Some things are better said in person. I thought for a moment. Fine. Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. You pick the place. The Korean barbecue place on South Street. The one you used to like. Okay. I hung up. Pocketed the phone. The light turned red again. I waited for the next green. The moon was still bright. The wind was cooler than before. The next night at 7. I walked into the barbecue place. It was a small spot on an old South Street block. Not fancy, but packed. Every table filled by 7. The air was thick with the smell of sizzling meat and charcoal. Grills hissing and popping. Steam rising in waves. Lin Wei was already there. At the small table against the back wall. 2 bottles of beer and a menu sat in front of her. Tonight, she wore a plain hoodie and jeans. More like the old Lin Wei I used to know. Hair loose. Light makeup. She looked like she'd peeled off a layer. I sat down. She slid the menu over. Order. The usual. She nodded. Checked a few items. And handed it to the waitress. The meat arrived. And we each grabbed a slice and laid it on the grill. The satisfying sizzle of meat hitting hot metal. About 10 minutes passed in silence. Just the sound of cooking and chewing. Then Lin Wei set down her chopsticks, picked up her beer, and looked at me. Chen Mo, do you hate me? I thought about it. No, you should. Should and shouldn't are 2 different things. I flipped the meat with my tongs. What you did that day hurt. But I know it wasn't meant to be cruel. You were scared of not getting the life you wanted. That's not wrong. Anyone would be scared. Lin Wei lowered her head, her fingers tracing the beer bottle's neck. She'd painted her nails with clear polish, barely visible in the dim light. That night, when you laughed, she said, when you took the card and laughed. I thought about it for days. I kept wondering what that laugh meant. What was I thinking? Yet I picked up a piece of grilled meat and put it in her bowl. I was thinking, when someone measures a relationship in money, how empty must they feel inside? Her hand stopped moving. She looked at the meat in her bowl and was quiet for a long while. Then she picked up her chopsticks and ate it. As she chewed, her eyes went red. Chen Mo, her voice wavered. What I said that day, dead weight, that wasn't me. Someone else said it. But it wasn't true. You were never dead weight. I wasn't good enough for you. I filled her glass. The past is the past. The past is the past. But there's one thing you need to figure out. Lin Wei, the life you want. It doesn't depend on who you marry. It depends on what you can do. If you think you need someone else to make your life right, you'll keep running into the same walls, no matter who you're with. She held her glass, watching the bubbles rise in the golden liquid. Then she nodded. Raised it.tou. She said that I raised mine too. The glasses met with a clean, crisp sound. We ate until nearly 9. When the bill came, she tried to grab it. I said no. When she had a job, she could pay. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, then laughed and said okay. Outside, the old streetlights cast a warm glow across the pavement. She stood at the restaurant door, looking at me, like she had something to say but hadn't found the words. That I'm heading off. I said, you should get home too. Chinemo, yeah. She took 2 steps forward, then stopped. She looked at me with something I'd seen before, but hadn't seen in a long time. Not guilt, not gratitude, but something softer, cleaner. Thank you, she said. I nodded at her, turned, and walked. After a few steps, her voice carried after me. When your project's done, don't forget to take me out to eat. I waved over my shoulder and kept walking. The night air was cool, but the street was bright with lights. Smoke from food stalls drifted through the corners. A few cats licking their paws by a dumpster. As I walked down the old street, images flickered through my head. 2 years ago, our first time at this place, was she stared at the menu for 10 minutes, uncertain what to order. A year ago, her birthday. I bought a small cake and stuck a candle in it. 3 days ago, she slid that bank card across the table. All of it was over. Really over. The next day, I went to Lin Jiangwo's place. He lived on the 6th floor of an old walk-up.no elevator. I climbed the stairs, and he was waiting at the door, a cup of hot tea in his hands. When he saw me, he thrust the tea toward me, wiping his hands on his pants. Chinemo, come in. Come in. The apartment was small but tidy. On the coffee table sat a fruit platter, a watermelon neatly sliced, alongside a stack of documents. A property deed, an IOU, and a handwritten repayment plan. Uncle Lin, what's all this? I'm mortgaging the house back home, he said. I should get a payment next week. Enough to pay back part of the bridge loan. The rest, I divided into 12 installments. It's all written out here. Sign it, and we'll do it by the book. I flipped through the papers. The handwriting was neat, every calculation clear. He'd taken this seriously. Uncle Lin, I set the papers down. The yuan final payment clears next week. The bridge loan interest is already settled. You don't need to rush. Get your life stable first. We'll take it slow. Lin Jiangwo stood across the table, his lips moving silently. Then he seemed to fold in on himself, gripping the table edge, his shoulders trembling. No sound, but I knew he was crying. Uncle, Chinemo, his voice came from somewhere below his bowed head. Hoarse, broken. I owe you my life. I walked over and patted his back. Didn't say anything. He cried for about 2 minutes, then straightened, wiped his face with his sleeve, and managed a red-eyed smile. Forgive me. Getting old. Can't hold it together. It's okay. My mom's the same way. He boiled noodles, and we sat in the living room and ate. The noodles were a little overdone, but the broth was good. He said he'd made it himself with pork bones. While we ate, he asked about Lin Wei. I said we'd had dinner last night, that she was doing well. He nodded and didn't ask more. When I left, he walked me down to the ground floor and stood in the stairwell entrance watching until I was far down the street. In the rearview mirror, his figure shrank smaller and smaller, until it blurred into a gray smudge at the corner. My phone buzzed. Lin Wei's message. My dad said you came over. Yeah. Had some noodles. His noodles are terrible, aren't they? The broth was good. She sent a smiley face. I pocketed the phone and kept driving. Streetlights swept past one after another, the radio playing something soft. The road stretched ahead, the night gentle. The yuan final payment landed on the 10th business day after signing. The number appeared in my account while I was filling a cup at the office water cooler. My phone vibrated once. I glanced at it, set the cup down, and leaned against the counter for a moment. Outside, an ordinary workday afternoon. A cleaning lady was wiping windows in the building across the street. Delivery drivers on electric bikes lined up at the curb waiting for red lights. Everything normal, but with that money in the bank, things could start moving. I called Lin Jiangwo to tell him the funds had cleared, and we could activate his repayment plan. He said a lot of grateful things on the phone. I listened, made a few acknowledging noises, then said, Uncle, get your money ready. I'll send someone to pick up the IOU. I hung up and dialed another number. Old Chung, the bridge lender. Mr. Chung, I've got my funds back. The bridge loan is settled, but I need your advice on one more thing. Go ahead. Someone I know owed high-interest debt. We cleared the principal and some interest, but the lender is still chasing for additional fees. Any tips? Old Chung was quiet for a moment. Are you handling this for someone? Yeah, send me the lender's info. I have people who do debt resolution assessments. When you settled, did you keep records? Transfer receipts, settlement statements. Oh, you have those. Kept everything. Then you're in good shape. If they're still coming after you, it's probably illegal fees. We can push back through proper channels. Thanks. Mr. Chung. Don't mention it. Zhou Mingyuan's friend is my friend. I hung up and leaned back, tapping my fingers on the desk. Lin Zhangwo's high-interest debt was 180,000. Principal and interest. I'd wired 50,000, and he'd scraped together some more himself. About 30,000 was still outstanding, but according to him, the lender had tacked on another 20,000 in processing fees and penalties after he'd paid the principal the money he shouldn't have to pay. That afternoon, I went to Lin Zhangwo's place. He'd already prepared a manila envelope with all the receipts, loan copies, and the lender's contact info, neatly arranged on the coffee table. When I walked in, he stood up, rubbing his hands together, visibly relieved to be handing this off. Chinemo, is this enough? If not, I can find more. I flipped through the folder. Everything was there. Even printed screenshots of WeChat messages. The lender's collection language was harsh, but the screenshots also showed several instances where they'd said, "You don't have to pay this 20,000. Contradictions. Self-incriminating. It's enough. I closed the folder. Uncle, let me handle this. You focus on your day-to-day. Don't contact them again. If they call, tell them you've retained counsel, and any further communication goes through legal channels." Lin Zhangwo nodded, then hesitated. "Chinemo, you've done so much for me. I feel terrible. Please take this." He pulled a thick envelope from his pocket and pressed it into my hands. "It's 30,000. All the cash we have right now. Take it as interest on the bridge loan, or as a handling fee. Whatever makes you comfortable. It'll put my mind at ease." I pushed it back. "Uncle, keep the money. Your daughter needs it. She doesn't have a job right now. You keep it. It'll do more good in your hands." Lin Zhangwo looked at me, his lips moving, but he didn't insist. As he tucked the envelope away, I saw his fingers trembling faintly. Outside his building, the sky was darkening. A motion sensor light on the stairwell was out, and I felt my way down to the 3rd floor in the dark. My phone lit up. A message from Lin Wei with a location pin, followed by, "I'm job hunting. Had an interview today." I stopped on the landing and read it. "What kind of company?" "An education center. Course consultant. Low base, but commission. They asked me to start a trial week next week. Good luck." She sent a smiley face. "Are you still cleaning up my dad's mess?" "Almost done." "Chinemo, yeah." She typed for a long time, then sent 5 words. "Take care of yourself." I stared at the 5 words for a moment, then locked the phone and kept walking down the stairs. Outside, moonlight spilled across the concrete courtyard like a thin layer of frost. I stood at the bottom of the building for a while, the wind carrying the scent of decaying autumn leaves. Some things were over. Some people were still moving forward. The next day, I sent Lin Zhangwo's file to Old Cheng's contact. The following afternoon, Old Cheng replied, "We reviewed it. Those fees don't hold up legally. My colleague drafted a cease and desist letter and sent it over. They'll probably back off. Just wait. Once they get the letter, they won't dare to chase further. If they still call, just say, 'We'll let the courts handle it.' If they're more scared than you are." I smiled and replied, "Got it." Friday, Lin Zhangwo called, his voice lighter than I'd heard it in weeks. "Chinemo, they dropped it. Called me this afternoon. Said the remaining balance is forgiven. It was a misunderstanding. Good news. Chinemo, I'm taking you out to dinner. This time you have to come. Bring Lin Wei too, uncle. Let's not rush. Take a couple of days to rest. There's plenty of time ahead." He laughed, a bright, clear laugh, like the sound of a storm finally passing. Okay, whatever you say." I hung up, sitting in my rental apartment. The night outside was deep. On the coffee table sat the manila folder, Lin Zhangwo's files, ready to return. Beside it, the folded A4 paper, the breakup agreement. I picked it up, unfolded it. Read those cold, sterile lines once more. Then I folded it twice, walked into the kitchen, and set it on the stove. I turned on the burner. A blue and orange flame leaped up. I watched the paper curl, blacken, crumble into ash. The words disappeared one by one. Both parties voluntarily terminate. Party A, Lin Wei. Party B, Chinemo, until all that remained was a small pile of gray ash on the stovetop. I turned off the burner and swept the ashes into the trash. Then I washed my hands, went back to the living room, and opened my laptop. Tomorrow, there were new projects to push forward. The Han Yuan follow-up schedule was already in my inbox. 3 new brand consulting requests to address next month. And at my agency, there were changes brewing. My direct supervisor had talked to me last week. He'd seen the results of my outside work and wanted me to head up a new independent unit. The glass of water on my desk had gone cold. I took a sip and opened my email to start replying. Beyond the window, the city still glittered with lights. A window across the way glowed warmly. I wondered what its occupant was doing. Eating dinner. Arguing with someone. Like Lin Wei was just starting a new job. Like Lin Zhengwo was breathing a long, deep sigh of relief that my light was still on. The glow from the laptop screen lit up my face. Everything was clear. The days stretched ahead. Steady. Unhurried, but always in motion. After the Hongyuan project moved into execution, I went to their office once a week for a status meeting. In the 3rd week, Zhou Mingyuan kept me back after the session. The sunset outside his window bathed the entire desk in warm gold. He leaned back in his chair and studied me. Mo, what's your current title at your agency? Senior planner. Salary. I told him. Zhou didn't comment. He nodded, then pulled a folder from his drawer and slid it across the desk. Hongyuan is setting up a dedicated external brand services division next year to work directly with our strategic partners. If you're interested, I'd like you to lead it. Compensation would be double what you're making now, plus project bonuses. I opened the file and flipped through it. The position description was thorough. Responsibilities, reporting structure, budget authority, all clearly outlined. It wasn't a casual invitation. It was a serious offer. Mr. Zhou, I closed the file. Let me think about it. No rush. Let me know by year end. He stood and patted my shoulder. I respect your strategic thinking, and I respect your character. You'd have a lot of autonomy here. You can work at your own pace. On the subway ride home, I read the offer again. As the train passed through tunnels, the window reflected my face. More alert than a few months ago. The dark circles less prominent. The lines around my mouth less tight. I took a photo of the first page and sent it to my older brother with a caption. Hongyuan is recruiting me. He replied with a voice message. I played it. He laughed and said, what are you waiting for? What's worth staying at your current place? I typed back. End of the month. Still have 2 projects to finish. He replied. Find out a few days later. Lin Wei messaged me to say she'd passed her trial period and was officially hired at the education center as a course consultant. I sent back congratulations, and she said she'd take me out to dinner with her first paycheck. I said okay. She picked a Saturday in mid-November. The restaurant was a new Cantonese place. More refined than the barbecue spot, but the portions were smaller for dishes and the table was full. She sat across from me in a cream-colored sweater, her hair shorter than the last time I'd seen her. She looked healthier, more at ease. Light in her eyes when she spoke. First month's pay isn't much, she said, putting some roast pork on my plate. But commissions come next month. It'll be better. Are you adjusting well? At first, no. Lot of product info to memorize. Parents hung up on me. But after a week, I found my rhythm. My supervisor says I have good communication skills. You've always been good with people. She smiled, looked down at her soup, then set down her spoon and looked at me. Mo. I told my mom. I paused mid-reach. I told her no about the banker. Asked her to stop pushing. We had a fight. She said I was being foolish. That I'd never get another chance like this. Lin Wei's fingers traced the rim of her glass. I told her, I don't care if I find someone or not. I don't want to depend on anyone else. I want to stand on my own first. How did she take it? She's still mad. But my dad is on my side. He told her to stop forcing her standards on me. Said I should live how I want. I looked at her. She met my eyes and didn't look away. Mo, she said. Do you really not hate me for how we broke up? I set my chopsticks down and took a sip of tea. Hate. I haven't thought about it. You're finding your own path, and I'm finding mine. Who knows what the future holds? Let's just focus on the present. She looked at me, and the corners of her mouth slowly lifted. It wasn't a practiced smile, or a forced one. It was the smile of someone finally grounded, finally sure of something. Okay, she said. I'll focus on the present. After dinner, we walked along the river for 20 minutes. The breeze off the water was cold, lights reflected on the surface in long, shimmering strings. She walked on my right, her pace steadier than before, occasionally sharing funny work stories, occasionally stopping to photograph the lights on the water. At the intersection, she stopped and faced me. I'll head this way, she said, pointing. Subway's that direction. Okay. She took 2 steps, then turned back. Mo, does this mean we're okay now? I thought about it. It means we're starting over. She smiled, raised a hand in a wave, and walked into the subway entrance. Her figure receded into the light, then blended into the crowd and vanished. I stood by the river a while longer. The wind lifted my jacket. The water flowed silently beneath the night sky. And across the river, thousands of scattered lights glowed in the windows of the city. My phone buzzed. A message from my supervisor. Chinemo, your transfer request was approved. The new unit launches next week. Get me your staffing proposal when you can. I replied. Got it. I leaned on the railing, put my phone in my pocket, and tucked my hands into my jacket. The wind carried the scent of water and a distant foghorn. Everything was just beginning. In early December, Lin Jiangwo's debt was officially cleared. After the lender signed the settlement, his credit record began to recover. He released the mortgage on his hometown property and repaid part of what he owed me. I told him not to rush. He insisted, said he wouldn't sleep well until the debt was honored. That day, he met me at my office building and handed me an envelope. It was thick, stuffed with cash, bound with 2 rubber bands. Uncle. I looked at it. Did you empty your savings for this? Not quite. He smiled, his eyes crinkling. There's some left. Linwei has a job now. She sends us a little every month. We'll manage. He paused, patted my arm. Chinemo, if there's ever anything you need from me, just say the word. I may not be good for much, but I can still run errands and carry things. All right, Uncle. I'll remember. He left. I stood at the office entrance watching his silhouette disappear around the corner. The winter sun stretching his shadow long across the pavement. My phone buzzed. Linwei. Dad said he paid you back. He did. He came home smiling. Happy. Good. She followed with a hee-hee emoji. I'm getting officially converted next month. Fancy dinner on me. Deal. In the elevator, I was alone. The metal walls reflected my figure back at me. Same jacket. Messy hair, but something different. Hard to say what. Maybe the posture was straighter, the expression more relaxed. The elevator reached the 7th floor. The doors opened onto the office. Keyboards clacking, phones ringing, printers humming. A familiar, warm hum of activity. I walked in, nodding to colleagues, made my way to my desk, and sat down. The new unit's staffing forms had a few emails waiting. The Hanyuan weekly report was up for review. Next week's meeting schedule. To be confirmed. Linwei's message was still in the corner of the screen, ending with a cheers emoji. I closed the chat and opened the staffing file. The clock on the bottom right read 2:17 p.m. Sunlight slanted through the window, laying a warm gold patch across my desk. I picked up my cup, took a sip, and placed my fingers on the keyboard. New days, quietly flowing. The end of December. The Hanyuan project reached its final phase. The first profit-sharing notification hit my email. The amount wasn't life-changing. But for one person, it was enough to shift the ground beneath their feet. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I made a decision. The next morning, I took a half-day off and went to South Street. The tea house was still there. The old plane tree in front had shed all its leaves, bare branches reaching toward a gray-white sky. I pushed the door open. The shop was mostly empty. The seat by the window was open. I sat down, ordered a pot of oolong, and scrolled through my contacts. First call, Old Chung. Mr. Chung. It's Chinemo. The bridge loan interest is settled, but I'd like to pay a little extra. Thank you. Send me your account. Silence for 2 seconds. Chinemo. I took the interest I was owed. I don't want extra. Spend it on something worthwhile. If you really want to thank me, keep me in mind for good projects. Deal. I'll remember. Second call. Zhou Mingyuan. Mr. Zhou. I'm accepting the offer, but I have one request. Can I push the start date to after the new year? I need to wrap up a personal project. Fine. Start after the holidays. The new division will be waiting for you. Third call. I hesitated, then dialed. Mom. Her voice came through. Surprised. Chinemo. Why are you calling during work hours, Mom? I got a year-end payout. I want to buy you guys something nice. Or book a trip. My treat. Silence. Then, Chinemo, be honest, did you strike it rich? Something like that. She laughed, the kind of laugh a mother has when her son is finally making something of himself. No trips. Your dad's knees are bad. If you have extra money, save it. You'll need it later. Then let me replace the washing machine. Yours has been running for what? 15 years. She laughed again. Didn't say yes. Didn't say no. Just deal what you think is best. I hung up. The tea was on its second steep. I held the cup and looked out the window. Kids chased a stray cat down the street. The cat scrambled up a wall, tail flicking. I pulled out my phone and wrote 3 notes. Buy Mom a washing machine. Sign the Hanyuan offer. Return Lin Jiangwo's original. Fail. Number 3 was the most important. That afternoon, I went to Lin Jiangwo's place. When he opened the door and saw the manila folder in my hand, his face went complex like he knew what was inside. Uncle, I've processed everything on my side. I handed him the folder. You can dispose of the original IOU. The loan has no lingering issues. Just check your credit report periodically to be sure. Lin Jiangwo took the folder without opening it. He stood in the doorway, sunlight streaming in behind him, haloing his white hair. Chunemo, he said, his voice quiet. If there's ever anything you need, don't say that. Uncle, I smiled. Just make me that noodle soup again. I keep thinking about it. He blinked. Then he laughed deep, crinkling his eyes. Come anytime. I'll give you a bigger bowl. As I left his building, my phone buzzed. Lin Wei, Dad called. Said you visited. He's been smiling non-stop. I stood in the stairwell. Pale winter sun warming the concrete. I typed back. His noodles are good. I'll come back for more. Then I'll let you have 2 bowls. I smiled. Pocketed the phone. On the last day of the year, the office let out early. I was packing up when Zhongwen popped her head over. Chunemo heard you're jumping ship. After the new year, another round of drinks. Then name the time. She grinned and turned away. People filed out one by one, each wishing me a happy new year. I was the last to leave. I turned off the lights and stood at the doorway, looking back at my desk. Empty except for the old mug I'd been using forever. Water gone. A ring of tea stain at the bottom. I picked it up, washed it, dried it, and put it in my bag. At the end of the hall, a window framed the city's New Year's Eve skyline. Lights brighter than usual, with sporadic fireworks blooming in the distance. I stood there for a moment, watching, then turned to the elevator. As the elevator descended, my phone buzzed. Old Chung with a New Year's greeting. Then Zhou Mingyuan. Looking forward to having you next year. Then my mom. A voice message. Her and my dad's voices tangled together, laughing, saying Happy New Year. Last was Lin Wei. This time last year, I didn't know what I wanted. This year, I finally have a clearer picture. Chunemo, thank you for helping my dad. And thank you for not holding that card against me. I stood in the elevator reading the message. The doors opened onto the lobby. Warm light spilling out. I typed back. Hold what against you? Old debts are cleared. New year. New terms. She replied instantly. Good. Followed by a thumbs up. I stepped out into the night. New Year's Eve felt gentler than usual. People running through the streets with glow sticks. Music and cheers in the distance. I walked slowly. In my pocket, the signed Honyuan offer sat in a folder, ready to mail after the holidays. At the intersection, I looked up. The city lights were too bright for stars, but the vast dark canopy arched above. A wide, silent roof over everything. All accounts settled. Some monetary, some personal, some long unspoken. And now they were all neatly put away. I kept walking. The wind lifted my jacket. Cool, but not cold. Ahead, the streetlights were bright. The road was wide. The new year was about to ring in.